Hurricanes Helene and Milton left a mark on southwest Florida's environment. High winds and storm surge not only damaged homes and businesses, they also changed the look of both coastal and inland plants. Trees and mangroves have turned brown. WGCU spoke with FGCU professor of ecology, Win Everham. He says native plants have evolved to withstand high winds and salt from hurricanes. Those adaptations include dropping leaves to allow for new growth. He says it will take time for trees to turn green, but local species will flourish again.
Probably most people who are watching this, if they've been paying attention to the landscape, they saw cypress near them just turn brown like a switch, and this is inland. So it wasn't salt spray. Brian's work with some of our undergraduate students is suggesting that the needles experience a physical stress from the wind. And so they are dropping their needles. Is that an adaptation because of experience through evolutionary time? Probably.
Professor Everham says while damage from hurricanes is normal, he's concerned that we've seen so many strong storms in such a short amount of time.
Mangroves are adapted to periodically being subjected to high wind and storm surge. They just are. Do we know that if they've experienced that on average on our landscape maybe once every 40 or 50 years, and now they're getting it apparently on average 3 or 4 times a decade, maybe a couple times a year? I mean, I'm hoping that what we just experienced is not the new normal. If it is the new normal, is it a whole new ballgame? I think I would say yes.
The professor compares recovering from a hurricane to recovering from a broken leg. He says if a bone heals and then breaks again, it will take longer to recover and may never be the same again. Well, power is always a major concern after a hurricane. Some people in Southwest Florida waited nearly a week for electricity to return after the storm. Just days after Milton made landfall, the White House announced an additional $2 billion will go toward improving the electrical grid. Some of that money will help modernize technology in Florida. WGCU spoke to White House climate advisor Ali Zaidi about what it will take to make sure Florida's infrastructure will hold up to even stronger hurricanes.
What it looks like is hardening the critical infrastructure, putting essentially a steel outer coating around a substation so it doesn't flood when the surge comes in, making sure that we're burying lines where it makes sense. Even though it costs more on the front end, it helps us bounce back faster on the back end. In other places, recognizing that those old wooden poles that maybe went up decades ago no longer work in the face of winds that will just slice right through them. So maybe they need to be replaced with steel and composite and cement poles that are reinforced a bunch of times and can withstand the pressures of the climate-fueled disasters that we're seeing. Those investments on the front end, that's exactly what we're doing, and that's exactly what will help us in storms in the future bounce back faster.
Zaidi also says Florida needs to address concerns about the changing climate.
Climate impacts Florida in so many different ways. Extreme heat is an example that was raging over the summer. We have to build out cooling stations and access to places where seniors and others can show up if they don't have air conditioning in their homes. We've got to expand tree cover, make sure that our infrastructure doesn't melt away as the temperature gets hotter. In obviously hurricane season, the big thing is preparing not just for the storms and the wind, but also for the surge that comes with it, which is why building higher, recognizing that there's a whole bunch of science that's been done to understand the flows, the risks from hurricanes and flooding, and reflect that into building codes and standards that keep up with the climate science. That's absolutely essential. And we partnered with some of the local communities to do just that. But look, climate shows up in a bunch of different ways. We've got to bring the best science and invest on the front end and recognize that front end investment is what helps us go the distance. And by the way, it pays off $10 for every dollar that we put in.